Good morning, everybody. If you've been listening to our sermons over the past couple of weeks, I hope you will have been warmed by their positive message. 2 weeks ago, Michael, our curate, spoke about Jesus' saying, "I am the vine, you are the branches." And last week, Robert, our vicar, spoke about abiding in God's love. Both were based on John's Gospel and had encouraging things to say about following Jesus. Today we have another encouraging message, and I'm going to come on to that a bit later on. First of all, though, I'd like to talk about a challenge. Jesus is about to leave his disciples, and they have a lifetime of work ahead. They are to be witnesses to his teaching, his death and resurrection, and they will have to face temptation and opposition along the way. Their challenge is to remain in the world and to avoid getting caught up in its values. Now, to get an idea of what John means when he talks about the world, let's think about what we have all recently experienced. When we were in lockdown, we got to know our immediate surroundings pretty well. Many people rediscovered the natural world and found great benefit from spending time in it. And for people of faith, this is a world which God has made and which he has given to us as a kind of gift. So the world, in that sense, is a good thing. Something else people discovered during lockdown was their connection with other human beings. They experienced acts of kindness and were moved to acts of kindness themselves. And again, people of faith saw God at work through this positive human behaviour. On the other hand, and certainly as we come out of lockdown, the news has been full of acts of intolerance and violence and repression. And this shows some of the worst things that humans are capable of. It shows what can happen when humans behave as if God does not exist. And this is exactly the sort of world that our gospel reading for today is talking about. Jesus and his disciples may have been born into this sort of world, but they do not belong to it. Now, I often find a certain tension in living in this world as a Christian. Sometimes it feels as if you are trying to be in two places at once. When I decided to follow Jesus, I was 25, and I became all fired up and couldn't stop talking about the wonderful life that we had when we were living it with Jesus, and about the forgiveness of sins and the hope of heaven. And I was amazed that other people didn't feel the same. I remember talking to friends and even colleagues at work, and they were all very polite, and I was actually very lucky that they were quite so polite, but they had no sense of what I was talking about. They actually were not interested at all. So I had to accept that I had stumbled into a different reality. I was still in this world, but my heart was elsewhere. And there were things to sort out. I had to reassess what I did with my time, the way I behaved, even the language I used. I had to rebuild my friendships. I had to start thinking about the impression I might create, because suddenly I was representing something other than just me. I was having to learn what it was to be in the world, but not belong to it. Let me give you another example. A friend of mine is a vicar over in southeast London, and recently she inherited some money. She was longing to spend it on her dream, which is a vintage Morgan sports car. But that gave her all sorts of problems. She went through all sorts of heart searching about whether this was really the right thing to do. What impression would it give to her parishioners when they saw her riding around in it? What would it say about her priorities? And in the end, after a lot of thought, she went out and bought a Ford Fiesta. which just shows that being in the world and not belonging to it is not always all that easy. Now, I said at the beginning that today's Gospel reading holds a challenge, but also an encouragement. A big encouragement is that we see Jesus praying for his disciples, and we know that his Spirit continues to pray in us. But there's something else too. There's a short statement, almost a throwaway line, and it's this: I have been glorified in them. Jesus is talking about his disciples, and they are an uninspiring group of Galilean peasants who have been following him around for the last 3 years. And he knows that they are about to run off and desert him. But he says, I have been glorified in them. And what Jesus says about them, he could just as well be saying about us. It doesn't matter that we fail from time to time. All he asks is that we believe and follow. And that, amazingly, will bring him glory. It is the most extraordinary compliment. It tells us just how much we matter and how much we are loved. So that is our encouragement for today. Let us hold on to it and rejoice in it as we carry on following him. All praise to his name. Amen.